Please welcome Dan Sousa to the stage.
So I met Bridget in first grade. She had come over from England with her family and settled in my little Massachusetts town. And she brought with her this adorable British accent. I remember we were like splashing around at the water table and we just sort of like clicked. You know how that happens? And we actually started dating in first grade. That accent works like no matter how old you are. It just like, it really does. And we actually stayed together through much of elementary school. In fifth grade, it's a pretty long relationship, actually. In fifth grade, we were cast as Robin Hood and Maid Marian in the annual play. Yeah, seriously big deal. And I thought it went really, really well. We did a couple performances, but after the curtain closed on the last performance, Bridget actually broke up with me. Yeah, thank you. But she did pose the important question. The all-important question is, do you still want to be friends? And even like at that time, I was like, does this ever work? But I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And this time it actually really did work. So Bridget and I became close friends through middle school, high school, college, and even beyond. So in March of 2020, Bridget was living alone in Brooklyn. I was living alone here in Boston. And the COVID numbers out of New York were just like terrifying. And Bridget was immunocompromised. She was on chemotherapy for a brain tumor she'd been diagnosed with about a decade before. And so I called Bridget up and I was like, do you want to come here to Boston? I'll come get you and we can kind of like ride this thing out. And she said yes. So I hopped in my car. I drove like 4 hours straight there, 4 hours straight back. It was so intense and eerie. Like there was nobody on the road. I remember all the highway signs were lit up and said like, avoid COVID exposure and all this stuff. It felt like being in a movie. It felt like that movie like Escape from New York. I don't know if you know that one. You don't know that one? All right, so it's like 1997, and the Soviet Union and the US have just like concluded this huge war. The island of Manhattan is actually a maximum security prison. Crazy thing happens. Air Force One gets hijacked, lands in Manhattan, and the president gets kidnapped. Not good. So the government's like freaking out at this point. And they find this guy, Snake, who's played by Kurt Russell. And Snake is like an old special ops dude, but he's a criminal now. And they're like, look, if you can get the president out of Manhattan, out of New York, we'll give you your freedom back. I mean, it's like totally crazy. So I guess, look, so it wasn't exactly like Escape from New York, but it was like a crazy back and forth. So Bridget moved in with me and she packed for probably about 3 weeks. I mean, we were both like, how long can this COVID thing really last, right? Well, it turns out a pretty long time. So the weeks turned into months, but it was kind of awesome. I mean, we were like old friends living together. So we were like drinking wine. We learned how to Zoom, which was really cool. And we played with my cat. Like, what more could you want, But Bridget was also going through some tough stuff. So every 3 weeks, I would take her here to Tufts for an MRI. And then we'd grab dumplings in Chinatown. We'd head back to my house and just rewatch our favorite shows over and over. I think we watched True Detective season 1 3 times in a row. And this has always been one of Bridget's superpowers, like balance out the shit part of life with as much fun as possible. I remember about 6 months into her staying with me, I went away for the weekend. And when I came back, I was kind of getting settled on the couch. And Bridget looks over at me with kind of a funny look on her face. And she's like, have you met them yet? And I was like, have I met who? What are you talking about? She's like, oh, nothing, you will. Later that night, I was walking down the hallway and I met the first guy. Huge black square mouth, 2 crazy black eyes. One's like facing up and one's facing down. It was my thermostat. So Bridget had taken 2 googly eyes and put them on the thermostat and turned this totally innocuous looking thing into like a real character. Over the next week, I met a lot more of these friends. There was the conditioner bottle with the small beady googly eyes in my shower that like watched me get into the shower. That was actually pretty creepy. There was my Dyson vacuum cleaner with an interchangeable trunk. It was a big elephant with beady, googly eyes. Bridget googly-eyed my white noise machine, my tea kettle, my Bluetooth speaker, a Zippo lighter, and the TV remote. And it sounds really silly, but we were really isolated in this bubble, so it actually was like she'd filled the house with some cool friends. Seriously. In May of 2021, I took Bridge for another round of MRI and dumplings. But this time the MRI came back and it showed some growth in her tumor. And her doctor did not like it, so really wanted Bridge to come back to New York to start radiation. So about 14 months, almost to the day that she had moved in with me, we packed her up and I took her back. I don't have any good movie reference for this one. It just kind of sucked. I got back in the car to drive home, and about 20 minutes into the trip, Bridget called me, and I picked up, and I was like, oh my God, what, did you forget something? Is something in the car? And she was like, no, I just wanted to chat. And then we chatted for the next 2.5 hours on the ride home. About a week into radiation, things started to go wrong. Some complications, and it wasn't really looking great. And about a month after that, her brother Dennis held a phone to her ear so I could tell her that I loved her and that it was okay to let go. About a month ago, I was rummaging through my linen closet looking for Q-tips or something stupid, and I came face to face with this bottle of body lotion that I had never met before. It had 2 small googly eyes, and underneath it there was a little imperfection in the plastic, and it looked a little bit like a smile, and I smiled back.